Hello and welcome back, kindergarten families. This is our second week of Jumpstart videos. This week I was able to talk with your students a little bit more about my kitten Zeke, who I introduced last week. I also talked with your students a little bit about things that are important to them at home and discuss with them some strategies to talk about those things, like writing them down or emailing me. I had some marvelous emails from students last week about their 2 truths and a fib, and I also talked about being able to still share those with me if you'd like. During our technology tips video, or tech tips video, I explained to students, I discussed how we are going to be using Zoom primarily with your students to communicate during class meetings. Last year we did some fun things like dance parties. And so Zoom will be that primary communication between us as the teacher and your students. If you have a chance, it would be awesome if you could show your student around. I gave them a quick overview of what Zoom looks like, but maybe talk with them a little bit more and show them in person how to navigate Zoom. The biggest thing that I've noticed with students last year was having a tough time clicking on the trackpad if they're using a computer. A little easier on an iPad or a phone because you just touch the screen, but showing them maybe a little bit of like a tutorial on how to actually smooth the cursor and to click on, say, the mute button or the start button, or in a couple of videos I'm going to be explaining how you can change your virtual background, which was a big hit last year. So just taking the time to get your student a little bit more acquainted with Zoom would be awesome. Like I said, it's going to be something that we use very frequently with communications between students, so I think that it'll be something that they catch on to fairly quickly, but I think just reducing that stress at the very beginning of school, having you explain it might ease some of those nerves and tension about working with technology. Today, for our parent content portion of the videos, I'm going to be talking a little bit about parent communication between your kindergarten teacher. Communication between us right now is crucial during this distance learning. We want to make sure that your students' needs are being met as well as your own. You're taking on so many different responsibilities, and we know that and want to make sure that your needs are also being met. We, during a typical year, are communicating nonstop with families. That is something that each teacher has a different style of how they communicate, but some range from every weekly newsletters to daily communication about what is happening in your student's classroom. We really want to find that fine line between a good amount of communication and too much communication. We know that you're juggling so many different things, and having email after email after email can be very stressful. So during our distance learning time last year, what we did was we sent out a weekly lesson plan of all of our videos and sent that out every Friday to parents so that they had the opportunity to look over it over the weekend, to print out necessary things or gather certain supplies ahead of time, so you weren't stressed about doing that right before you needed them or your student needed them. We sent out also a lot of surveys to parents to see how our strategies and how our videos were working for you and your students, and we'll continue to do that this year to make sure that, again, you and your students' needs are being met. All of us kindergarten teachers at Bryant know that this is a very stressful time for both you and your student, and so we want to make sure that that communication is happening between us and you. Communication between families and kindergarten teachers will vary class to class. I know some of us are trying out new technology platforms, and so there will be more information specific to your child's classroom later on in the summer so that you have a little more understanding of how communication will work specifically between you and your teacher. But again, there will be that weekly communication between the whole kindergarten team and yourselves. Reach out to any one of us if you have any questions or concerns, comments, suggestions for how we are going about distance learning. We are very open to new ideas because just like for everybody else, this is very new to us. And so we want to make sure that your students' learning environment at home is working for them as well as the information that we are providing. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next week for some more parent content. Bye everyone.